She's like a sickness in my brain, a vision standing by the window pane. She ripples through the blinds and leaves me in a daze. It's in the way her body moves me, the way she grabs me and intoxicates, until the signals in my mind forget to operate. Pressure in your fragile skull. I take my pleasure from my alcohol. She'll never give you any time at all. She just comes in and goes, you know, and she's got me living in a chemical love, and
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for another Coffee and Crime Time. And today we're talking about Madeleine McCann. Now I'm not going to make an entire video about Madeleine McCann because I've already done that. I did 2 videos on this case years ago, and this was the case that really jump-started me into even covering true crime on this channel. So we kind of have that case to thank for all of us being together here. But that's about the only good thing that case ever did. I don't want to claim to be an expert on the Madeleine McCann case. However, I do know a lot about it. The Madeleine McCann videos that I did on this channel were the first ones that really started gaining traction and putting me into the algorithm. And I believe that it was the first multi-parter that I ever did. And I spent months researching because at that time I was still working full-time and I had kids, and Bella was really, really young at that time. She was a baby. So I kind of had to take a lot more time because I was just getting into it and figuring out my research method. And so I spent months with this case, and it does feel like I know a lot about it, but I don't know everything about it. And there has been some new information released just this week about the case, and the police are saying they have a suspect. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how I feel about it, how I feel about the timing, and if I think this is the end of the Madeleine McCann mystery. Before we dive into all of that, though, I do want to have a word from our sponsor, and our sponsor today is June's Journey. This is the 3rd time I've had June's Journey as a sponsor on this channel, and I have to tell you that within the past couple of weeks or so, everything kind of falling down around us in the world, June's Journey has been a godsend to me. June's Journey is a hidden object mystery game set in the 1920s. It's available for free to download on mobile devices, Android and iOS, and on desktop through Amazon and Facebook. When you play June's Journey, you will be a part of a captivating detective story taking you all over the world and back to the glamour of the 1920s with a diverse cast of characters. Each new scene takes you further through a thrilling murder mystery story that sets the main protagonist, June Parker, in a quest to solve the murder of her sister and uncover her family's many secrets. I know some of you have already been playing the game. I see you on there and you send me stuff. Thank you. But what you may not know is there is a new feature, the Detectives Lounge, which is available in the game to any players after Chapter 3, Scene 4. The lounge feature lets you chat with other players and even form clubs with your friends where you can compete with players in other clubs, and everything in my family always turns competitive, no matter what we're doing, what we're playing, so I welcome this. And as the coffee lover that you all know I am, I really enjoy the cafe, which is an in-game space where players can buy drinks for each other, and gifting those drinks gives players energy and tips. Tips are the cafe currency, which can then be exchanged for in-game rewards. There's also a special community event taking place from June 9th to the 12th in the game and on the June's Journey Facebook page called The Mystery Lounge, a murder most foul. During the event, players can share drinks in the lounge to meet the drinks served milestone each day while the challenge is going on. If you meet that goal, all players who participate will be rewarded with a daily in-game prize. If you head over to the June's Journey Facebook page, you'll find an exclusive mystery video series where your new video will be released every day. At the end of the challenge, if you've met all the drinks milestones, all players will receive an exclusive decorative object to proudly display on your island. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a big gamer, and anything that's like an exclusive, only available right now kind of object, I want it. June's Journey is is free to download on iOS and Android, as well as your desktop computer. You can download it through Facebook. I like playing on my desktop lately because I've been using June's Journey as a distraction when I'm researching to kind of like chill out and clear my head. I used to use social media for that, but right now that's kind of crazy too. So I just click over on my computer while I'm researching, play June's Journey for 10-15 minutes, level up, get some new prizes, and then I go back to my work. If you're interested in trying June's Journey, there's a link in the description box. You can use that link to download the game. It's an excellent way to unwind while still using your brain. Thank you so much to June's Journey for sponsoring this video, and let's get started. So I can't really say I'm surprised. The new information that's come out about Madeleine McCann has caused some controversy because you really have three camps of people. I don't even want to say two camps of people. You have the people who absolutely believe that Madeleine McCann's parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, were responsible or involved with what happened to their daughter. Then you have the people over here that absolutely don't think they had anything to do with it. And then you kind of have like the rest of the people in the middle who aren't really sold on the fact that Kate and Jerry are completely innocent, but also are hesitant to really speak out against them because if they are innocent and there's a chance they're innocent, then you're really kind of causing more pain and turmoil to a family that's already experienced a lot of that. So I'm going to go over quickly what's come out that's being told to us is new updates. I'm going to go over what evidence they have, what they're saying about it, and then we'll talk about how I feel about what's come out and the case overall. New leads and a new suspect have emerged in a 13-year-old cold case, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Now, this case has held a special place in my heart for many years. It was one of the main reasons I started covering true crime on YouTube. I have 2 videos on this case from way back in my channel. I'll link them in the description box so you can brush up on the case before watching this if you want, or watch them after if you're not completely familiar with the case. Because here I'm not going to be going over all the details of her disappearance. I'm just going to focus on the new information and kind of analyzing that. But also keep in mind, this was right at the start of my YouTube adventure. The sound and the picture aren't really great, and I wasn't totally comfortable talking in front of a camera yet, but the information is still good. So let's just overlook the fact that I was completely new to YouTube. And everything sucked, but the information was good. However, even when we watch our favorite TV shows, we always need a little like what happened last time on such and such show. So I'm going to give you a quick breakdown with the help of Sky News, who has provided a pretty good timeline of events in the Madeleine McCann case. So April 28th, 2007, the McCanns go on a holiday. Kate and Jerry McCann and their 3 children, Madeleine, Emily, and Sean, arrive in Portugal for a holiday at the Ocean Club complex in Praia da Luz. In the evenings that follow, the couple joins other adults in dining at the resort's tapas restaurant roughly 50 meters away from where the McCann children are sleeping. Okay, to build on that, Kate and Jerry McCann, they lived in the UK with their 3 children, Madeleine, Sean, and Emily. Sean and Emily are twins, and they were a year younger than Madeleine. Madeleine was about 3. Kate and Jerry were both doctors. They went to Portugal with a group of their friends that's now known as the Tapas 7. So they all went together, and it was common, I guess, for these families to vacation together, and they all had kids. And then at night, when the adults would go to dinner, they would leave all of their children sleeping in this apartment building in Praia da Luz, where they would then kind of take turns checking in on the kids. And that was the story, and that's what we were being told. So all of these adults would put their small children to bed in these apartments. It's not like a gated resort area. It's right on the street of Praia da Luz. They put them into bed in these apartments in a foreign country and leave them there. And then they would all go to the tapas bar, which was 50 meters away, to have dinner and then kind of take turns walking back to the apartment and checking on their kids. Let's go back to the Sky News timeline. May 3rd, 2007, the day of Madeleine's disappearance. At 7:30 a.m. over breakfast, Madeleine asks her parents why they had not been in the apartment when she woke up and cried the night before. Kate and Jerry make a mental note to constantly check their children are settled when they go out for a meal that evening. After spending time around the swimming pool, the children go to a kids club while Jerry and Kate have a tennis lesson. 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. that evening, the family return to the apartment. Kate gets the children ready for bed while Jerry goes to play tennis again. At 7 p.m., Jerry returns, and Madeleine is read a bedtime story. The twins are put in a travel cot next to Madeleine's bed, and the children fall asleep. The shutters outside the ground floor bedroom are down, and the window is closed. Kate and Jerry leave the door ajar. At 8:30 p.m., Kate and Jerry leave their apartment and go to the Tapas restaurant to eat with 7 other people. At 9:05 p.m., Jerry returns to the apartment and notices the position of the bedroom door is different to how they left it. He walks into the bedroom and sees all 3 of his children sound asleep. Jerry heads back to the restaurant but stops for a conversation with someone along the way. At about 9:15 p.m., another parent in the group, Jane Tanner, walks past the McCann's apartment as she goes to check on her own children. She sees a man carrying a young child, and after Madeleine disappears, he becomes the police's main suspect. Now, just keep in mind that this man, who was the main suspect for a long time, they had police sketches done of him. 6 years later, the Metropolitan Police made the discovery that it wasn't a suspect at all, but it was just another person there on holiday carrying his own daughter back from the night daycare that the resort offered. Yes, you heard me right. The resort offered a night daycare that the McCanns and all of their friends did not take advantage of, instead deciding it would be a much safer and better option to leave their young children sleeping alone in an apartment in a foreign land. At 9:30 p.m., a friend at the dinner table offers to check up on the McCann's children as he checks on his own kids in the apartment next door. Matthew Oldfield returns and says everything is fine and quiet. At 10 p.m., Kate McCann finishes eating and goes back to the apartment. She notices that the children's bedroom door is quite open, but as she goes to close it slightly, a breeze slams it shut. She goes into the room, realizes Madeleine is missing, and notices that the window is open and the shutters are up. The alarm is raised. So that's pretty much what happened that day, right? Madeleine woke up and said, why weren't you guys here last night when I cried? And if you watch my videos, there's also a neighbor or another resident of that apartment who did testify to the police that she heard children crying in the apartment for hours that night before Madeleine went missing. And this is all in my videos. It's a very crazy kind of case because I really went into it wanting to not suspect that Kate and Jerry McCann were guilty of anything. I really didn't want to suspect them of anything. But with all the information put together, if you watch the videos or watch them, you'll know what I mean. They don't make it easy to be on their side 100%. And there's a lot of drama between the Portuguese law enforcement and then Scotland Yard and Britain's law enforcement. And there's a lot of drama between the McCanns and Goncalo Amaral, who was the main investigator on the case at the time. And he since has basically written a book, and Kate McCann's written a book, and everybody's written a goddamn book. But nobody can tell us where Madeleine is, which at the end is all that I personally care about. So we're going to fast forward to 2011, and that is when the McCanns lobbied then Prime Minister David Cameron to help out with the case. And the evidence and the information was handed over to a senior Scotland Yard team to review. From this information, the Metropolitan Police came up with a list of 600 people they wanted to know more about and 41 potential suspects. In 2013, the German equivalent of BBC TV's Crime Watch launched an appeal. They were asking for information about 2 German-speaking men in Praia de Luz at that time, and this led to more tips. So it seems that the police have theorized that Madeleine was kidnapped, and she could have been kidnapped by someone who was German or Dutch, which was the 2 other predominant nationalities at the resort, along with British and Portuguese. On the 10th anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance, the German Federal Police received information about a man who happened to be one of the people on that list of 600 that Scotland Yard had created on the McCann case from the files and evidence they got from the Portuguese police. According to German police, this man is a sex offender, and he's currently in prison convicted on offenses against little girls. Now, when this was reported and came out a couple of days ago, I was like, okay, who's this guy? What's his deal? What's his motive? What's the story? And I was very surprised to find out that it was incredibly difficult to figure out what this suspect's name was. They weren't releasing it. they weren't telling you who he was, and I didn't understand that. However, I did find it after a little digging, and I discovered that the identity of the alleged suspect is Christian Bruckner, a 43-year-old man who is currently serving a prison sentence in Kiel, Germany. So far, what they have on this individual is circumstantial only, kind of a right time, right place sort of situation. And I'm going to let former police officer Jim Gamble explain this a little bit more. He worked on the original investigation.
Well, the case as we know it so far, explained by the Metropolitan Police, is based on circumstantial evidence. So you will look at, a person's opportunity to commit the crime, the preparation that they may have committed in their subsequent conduct. So that's why this is really important, because you have an individual who we're told has committed similar offences. The age range of his previous offences are quite wide. We know that he was in proximity at the time, and the circumstantial evidence is further strengthened by the phone call cell site analysis that puts his phone in a particular place at a particular time and in immediate proximity to the timeline of the offence. And then if you look at more circumstantial evidence, in other words, the subsequent conduct of an individual you might be looking at, when you bring it together, makes him a very, very significant person of interest. And I think what's really useful here is that the Metropolitan Police are sharing what they can with us, but not oversharing. Because what's important now is this jigsaw puzzle is coming together. There are some pieces missing. And if the public are now prompted, if someone who's held something back suddenly realizes how important the little piece of information they have is and comes forward, they might bring those last pieces together. And it's important that the Met don't share too much, because you don't want to put words into people's mouths. And the evidence, when it comes forward, will need to be sufficiently independent that it can be tested, of course, ultimately in court.
So what is this evidence that they have against this man enough to begin putting out to the public that he's a legitimate suspect, but not telling us his name or even showing us his whole face? They put up a picture of him, and a black bar was covering the entire top of his face. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so we have two vehicles. One is an early 90s VW T3 Westfalia camper van with two-tone markings, a white upper and a yellow skirt. This vehicle had Portugal plates. The second vehicle is a 1993 British Jaguar model XJR6 with German number plates, registered in Germany initially to Christian Bruckner, but the registration was changed the day after Madeleine went missing to another person in Germany. Christian Bruckner is also believed to have been in that area between 1995 and 2007 and is described to have lived a transient lifestyle in the Algarve, making money, doing random catering jobs, as well as burglarizing holiday apartments and selling drugs. According to his cell phone records, officials now know he was in the area of the McCann's apartment during the critical time on the night Madeleine went missing, and he received a 30-minute phone call from an unknown person. They have released the details of his phone number as well as the phone number of the person who called him, hoping someone out there somewhere might have information on either of these numbers. Maybe they called them at one point, maybe they got calls from them at one point. And I'm going to verbally say the numbers here, and I'm also going to put them on the screen just in case there's a fluke chance somebody out there knows something. So his number that he was using was 351-912-730-680, and the person who called him was calling from the area of Praia de Luz from the mobile number 351-916-510-683. Okay, so we have those two vehicles. We also have Bruckner, I guess, placed in Praia de Luz the night Madeleine went missing, and around the time she would have gone missing, he received a phone call from an unknown person, and it was about 30 minutes. We also have two properties that he's been connected to. Both have been described as small villas on quiet country lanes. One is within a 10-minute drive from Praia de Luz, and one is over a mile away, but lies within a mile of that grassy land where British police extensively searched for Madeleine in 2014. One of these villas has been described by German police as a hideaway for stolen goods. So when we say circumstantial evidence, it means that there's no DNA to connect Christian Bruckner to Madeleine's disappearance. There's no eyewitness testimony, he didn't leave behind fingerprints, etc. However, he does have a history of attacking women of varying ages. Some have been very young girls. One was an American woman in her 70s staying in Portugal, and he also has a history of breaking into apartments of those on holiday in Portugal. His cell phone was allegedly in the area of the McCann apartment that night, and the fact that the vehicle, which had been previously registered in his name, was changed to somebody else's name the day after Madeleine vanished, that's also suspicious. That's also circumstantial evidence. At this time, the German police are investigating this as a murder now in Germany, since they believe Madeleine is no longer alive. But the British police still have this case listed as a missing persons case as of now, when I'm recording this Friday, June 5th. So I have some problems here, as I do when there isn't a lot of information available and it's hard to put that puzzle together. If the police or the authorities are asking for people to reach out if they remember something or know something, which they are, they're asking people to reach out if they remember something from this time or from this man. Why is the only picture that's been officially released of him a picture of this guy's face with a big black bar over the top half of his face? Like, what is a person who could potentially have information about this guy and his activities at this time? What are they going to do with this picture of this guy, of a completely nondescript, normal-looking guy with a bar over the top half of his face? Like, oh yeah, I would know those lips anywhere. Oh, that 5 o'clock shadow? That's Christian Bruckner right there. Like, at this time, he's in prison. There should be really no fear of compromising his privacy since he's in prison for crimes. And how can anyone give you information about someone when they don't know his name and they only know what his lips look like? So I'm telling you what this dude's name is, Christian Bruckner, and I was able to find a picture on Reddit of his whole face. So I'm going to put that up here because this guy's in jail. And if he's responsible for kidnapping Madeleine McCann and killing her, which is what the German police are saying, then you shouldn't mind putting his face out there and getting whatever information that you need in order to put him behind bars for this crime. And another problem that I have, which is, maybe just the way my brain works, is although they may be able to place him in that area at the time, they have the where, we still don't know the why. Why take Maddie with him if he was breaking into the apartment? Why was nothing missing from the apartment? Why were her two siblings left sleeping in their beds? And she was the only thing taken from that flat. If he made his money on the side by stealing and selling things from the apartments of those who were on holiday in Portugal, why didn't he take anything? Why didn't he take any of Kate's jewelry? Why didn't he go in the bedroom of the McCanns and try to grab Jerry's wallet? Was he sent there specifically for Madeleine? And if so, who sent him there? Simply placing someone in the area who has a criminal record really isn't enough for me to jump on board with this just yet. Is all of the circumstantial evidence thrown into a pile suggesting he's a criminal and not the best guy? Yeah, but even Jim Gamble said there's a lot of pieces still missing from this puzzle, which is why they're asking the public to help out and give any information, but they're still holding back vital information such as what his name is and what he actually looks like, which will help the public be able to give the police information. So I'm not sure what kind of information they're expecting to get when you didn't tell us who he was or what he looked like. So it's the theory of the German police that Christian Bruckner may have broken into the apartment and spontaneously kidnapped Madeleine. So basically the German police are saying, right, that he was just wandering around this area, which was, a touristy area, looking for some place to rob, broke into the McCann's apartment. She was there, Madeleine, and he's like, oh, I'm going to take this little girl because stealing a little girl is way better than, stealing jewelry or money. It was a crime of opportunity, is what the German police are suggesting. There is also some evidence that this suspect came to the attention of the police after he was caught discussing Madeleine and her case in a chat room. With this new information coming out, which, by the way, isn't new, okay, so they've known about this guy since 2017, and I think that the timing of releasing it now, when it's been almost 3 years since they've had this information, is suspicious on its own. But that's a story for another night, children. But in addition to all of that, we also have some more of the same old story, blaming the Portuguese police force for not handling the case properly in the beginning, which is why it's been so long for these new details to kind of be sniffed out and discovered. According to Jim Gamble, he discovered during his review of the case that a lot of pieces of information on the case weren't kept together in the way you would expect. So he had actually recommended that the Portuguese police begin to use a system called Holmes 2, which allows you to kind of bring different pieces of information together to generate actions. Gamble also felt that cell dumps and telephone information had not been properly pursued at the time. There had been information of people that had been in the area who were never questioned or never found. So listen. Like everyone else, I would truly want to know what happened to Madeleine McCann. It's been a mystery that's plagued me for a long time, but I want to know the truth. I want to know exactly what happened, why she was taken, and what happened to her. At this point, no body has been found, and all they can say is they believe she's no longer alive, and they believe that this Christian Bruckner guy was somehow responsible. But since it appears he didn't take anything else while he was there besides Madeleine, was he there on someone else's instruction? What personal motive did he have for taking her? And if someone else gave him his orders, who was it and what was their motive? So here's the picture of Christian Bruckner once again that I found on Reddit. Gotta love the internet. This guy's pretty pale, blue eyes, blonde hair. And he really doesn't match any of the descriptions of these suspicious characters hanging around at the time. All these suspicious characters we've heard about. Derek Flack, a British citizen who was on holiday in Praia da Luz, he contacted the police about a suspicious event he witnessed. He said it was either May 2nd or 3rd. He and his wife were going to a supermarket when they observed an individual standing at the corner of a path watching the apartment that Madeleine McCann would later go missing from. He was described as having darker skin with a few days stubble, short dark hair cut long in the back, which kind of extended over his shirt collar. And they also claimed that on the other side of the road from this man, a van was parked with another person inside or outside of the vehicle. They couldn't remember exactly if he was inside or outside of the vehicle, and they couldn't remember exactly what he looked like. And of course, that famous picture, the one of the man carrying the child away that was drawn from eyewitness testimony, Jane Tanner's eyewitness testimony. If you watched my initial videos on Madeleine McCann, you know what I think about Jane Tanner, regardless of anything else in this case. Jane Tanner's not my favorite person. And this guy carrying the kid away that Jane Tanner described, he doesn't look like Bruckner either. And I revealed in my videos and just now that I believed this was another tourist who came forward later saying he was just carrying his own child home from the night daycare that the resort offered. The police believe, the Metropolitan Police believe that it was just a tourist. But still, there's many people out there that believe this man in this picture and the man who said he was carrying his daughter home while she was sleeping, they're two different people. And Jane Tanner actually did witness Madeleine being taken away. In fact, all 6 of these pictures, which were drawn from eyewitness testimony of suspicious characters hanging around, they don't resemble Bruckner at all. And then you've got that other guy that we heard about nonstop during that Madeleine McCann Netflix documentary, the biased Madeleine McCann Netflix documentary. They called him this ugly guy with pockmarked skin. He was seen watching the apartment on May 3rd. He doesn't resemble Christian Bruckner. So it looks like what we really need is for the person who made that call to Bruckner to come forward. And Detective Chief Inspector Mark Crandall spoke directly to this person saying, you may be aware of some of the things he's done, speaking about Christian. He may have confided in you about the disappearance of Madeleine. More than 13 years have passed, and your loyalties may have changed. This individual is in prison. Now is the time to come forward. Which is great. It's a great message. Yeah, I can see how that would really reach somebody who had a heart and a soul. Unless the person who was on the other end of the line that night talking to Christian Bruckner was the one calling the shots and giving Bruckner his instructions. In that case, obviously the person's not going to come forward. And we may have something bigger on our hands that goes much deeper and involves many more people than the man they now have behind bars. And I suspect that it's more likely, if Bruckner was involved, he wasn't acting on his own. As far as we know, Christian Bruckner has, yes, attacked women, young and old. And he's been caught for that, and he's been caught robbing people's apartments. But as far as we know, he's never kidnapped any children, right? And he could have before, we just don't know about it. But as far as we know, he hasn't. We know he takes advantage of women and girls of all ages. We know he breaks into apartments and steals things. We don't know that he's a kidnapper. We also know he was described as having this sort of transient life while he was living in Portugal. And yet he's got this RV camper that's affiliated with him, and then this Jaguar. And, I thought at first, I was like, this guy's being described as transient, but he's driving around a Jaguar that's registered in his name. So my husband, who's a car guy, I called him, and he spent some time abroad when he was in college. And I remember talking to him about how it's funny that it feels like everybody drives a BMW in Germany, or the police drive BMWs in Germany. And Adam said, my husband, he was like, well, yeah, it's a German car, so it's like driving a Ford here. So it's not as like big of a status symbol in Germany, I guess, as it is here. Because here we have to import them and, cost more money and what have you. So I'm like, is it the same for a Jaguar? Now, Jaguar is not a German car, it's a British car. So I called my husband and I'm like, hey, do you think it would be less expensive to own a Jaguar in Europe than it would be here? And my husband said no, but then he asked me about what year it was, the model, and he was like, well, you're talking about 2007 when this guy had the car. It was a 1993 model, so he probably got it for really cheap. It probably wasn't that expensive when he bought it, so it's not like he's paying like $100,000 for a Jaguar, because to me, I was like, a transient lifestyle does not include driving around in a Jaguar, but that's why I have my husband, and that's why I have all of you out there who know more about things than I do in certain areas, and I can refer to you. But you guys know as well as I do. If looking through these cases and analyzing them over these past couple of years has taught us anything, it's that sometimes things aren't always what they look like. Could Christian Bruckner have been involved with what happened to Madeleine McCann? Sure, absolutely. Right time, right place. It's that motive that's still kind of lacking for me. If you'd told me he went in there to rob the place and then he did something to her while she was in there and then stole some stuff from the apartment and left, I would find that a lot easier to believe, because that's been his MO before. But the fact that he would take nothing from the apartment, just a child, that is suspicious. So if he was involved, that's fine. I don't have a hard time accepting it. But I do think that there's other people, and I think that he's not running the show. He's not calling the shots, and he probably did it. Allegedly, don't come for me, it's just my idea. He did it because somebody else told him to. Maybe somebody else paid him to. Maybe stealing Madeleine was one of these odd jobs he did for money. Because if he's living this transient lifestyle, if he, doesn't have like a steady job, even if he took Madeleine out of that apartment, why wouldn't he take something else too to sell, make some money? And if he did take Madeleine to sell, which isn't impossible, it's not out of the ordinary, although we don't want to admit that it's very common in our country and in the world that children get trafficked. If he did take Madeleine to sell, where's the evidence of that? Where did she go? Where did he sell her? Why do the police think she's no longer alive? And obviously they're playing this close to the vest because they know we're watching, and they know that this is one of those cases that people are absolutely obsessed with finding out the truth, though, not obsessed with having you throw us a fall guy. And that's what I'll say about that. So I do have some new information that just came out a couple of hours ago, and it's from the Daily Mail, and it says German prosecutors to search abandoned box factory where they found child abuse images belonging to Madeleine McCann, suspect Christian Bruckner, as they reopen investigation into unsolved abduction of girl 5 in woods in 2015. Oh, so now they're saying his name. Now they're posting his picture. Before, no name, no picture. I had to dig so deep, and I was so proud of myself, and here it is. So it goes on to say, blonde and blue-eyed Inga Gericke, 5, disappeared from Saxony in Germany on May 2nd, 2015. She vanished 48 miles away from where Christian Bruckner lived in a caravan in an abandoned factory. Police investigated Bruckner for weeks in 2016 over Inga's disappearance, which was compared to Maddie's. Prosecutors have opened a preliminary investigation into whether Bruckner was involved in the Inga case. So apparently, police found this USB stick amongst animal bones in a abandoned box factory where Christian Bruckner used to live, and it looks like he hid it there. And what was on the USB drive, I don't have to go into detail about that. It was bad, and it involved children. So Inga disappeared on May 2nd, 2015, almost 8 years to the day after Madeleine vanished in Portugal on May 3rd, 2007. So it looks like Christian Bruckner was prosecuted over the files and photos and things he had on that USB drive that he hid that the police found, but he was never charged with anything related to Inga's disappearance. Apparently, documents have revealed that allegedly show Christian Bruckner fantasized in disgusting online chats about the kidnapping and abuse of a child in September of 2013. He is said to have told one acquaintance he wanted to capture something small and use it for days, and that it would be safer if the evidence is destroyed afterwards. Okay, so the mystery caller has been identified as Diogo Silva by the Portuguese media. Okay, so I went to a new article now which has more information about Diogo Silva, and it says that police want to locate Silva and quiz him on Christian Bruckner's movements. It says that German pedophile Christian Bruckner chatted with the caller for 30 minutes on the night of the 3-year-old going missing from her family's villa in the resort of Praia de Luz. So it looks like the Metropolitan Police and the German police are now working with the Portuguese police to locate and interview Silva to see what he might know about Christian Bruckner and what his movements were on that night. And his evidence could prove crucial in this investigation, as he could prove or provide a vital timeline in the 43-year-old's movements. Silva might also have information about Bruckner's plans to rob holiday apartments, one of his sources of incomes while living on the Algarve. Witnesses have claimed they saw 2 blonde men walking near the apartment where Madeleine was taken. So they're bringing up the interview from that Netflix documentary. It was a woman, it was right towards the end, and she said she was with her sister, and they saw 2 blonde men kind of hanging around the apartment, and it was a little suspicious, but they didn't think that at first because they were like, oh, they're kind of cute, and that's what made them remember that those 2 blonde men were there. So who knows at this point, guys? Who knows? Given what he's said in the chat rooms, does that make it more suspicious? The talking about taking a little thing and using it for days and then having to get rid of the evidence? Hell yeah, it's more suspicious. Still though, I want to know more, and how much I would love for this case to be put to bed, and for the McCanns once and for all to be kind of, out from under the curtain of suspicion, I guess. But if you watch my 2 videos on this, I really tried to be on Kate and Jerry's team. I tried to be in their tennis court, so to speak, because Jerry McCann loves tennis, but they did so many things and they said so many things, and the things that Kate McCann wrote about her missing daughter in that book, the way that they seemed so agitated that people were trying to find Madeleine and were questioning them about what happened that night because their story changed so many times, and a lot of what they were saying didn't make sense. Once again, watch the videos. What I'm saying now will make more sense, but a lot of what they're saying didn't make sense. And then they'd get real sassy with reporters who are just like, well, why did you go jogging the day that your daughter was missing when everyone else was looking for your daughter? Why was Jerry playing tennis and you, Kate, you were jogging? And they get like real defensive about being asked these questions, which they do need to be asked, and then the sniffer dogs. Oh, don't get me started on the sniffer dogs. So they brought the sniffer dogs in, and the sniffer dogs had picked up the scent of human decomposition or blood. They had 2 different dogs, which had 2 different specialties. They picked up these scents in the apartment and in the McCann's rental car. And then whenever Kate and Jerry McCann got questioned about why the dogs picked up, certain things, they just give these sassy answers, and Jerry would be like, why don't you ask the dogs? Like, just horrible, sassy answers. And it's like, your daughter's missing. Anything could be happening to her. She's 3. I have a 3-year-old daughter, so terrifying to even think of. She's 3. And the way that you just seem so snarky isn't really the way that I think you're going to achieve the amount of help that you want right now, because people are going to be so busy wondering if you're involved because of the way you're acting that they're not going to be looking other places. And they always said that, the McCanns, they were like, stop looking over here, look and find her someplace else with you. And you guys have to stop acting shady and suspicious. And you guys have to stop hiring people like Clarence Mitchell to represent you to the public, because he's shady and people don't trust him. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm interested to see what else develops and what else comes out. I'm sure it'll be a couple of days before this goes up, because YouTube does not seem to work as hard on the weekend as they do during the week, which still isn't that hard. But I'll get this up as soon as possible, and if new stuff comes out, I will post about it on social media, or I'll do an update. You know, at this point, when we're talking about current cases, I can't keep up with all the stuff that's happening, so some of the stuff might be out of date by the time Monday rolls around and this finally goes up, but at least it's food for thought, and I'd like to get a discussion going in the comments. What do you guys think? Did you ever think that Kate and Jerry McCann could have possibly been involved? Were you always on the no, they couldn't have been involved side? Are you kind of changing your mind now? Have you found yourself flipping back and forth as I have over the years, as you can see me doing in those videos where I'm constantly like, well, that's not suspicious, but this kind of is. I try to remain unbiased. I try to look at everything and kind of be fair to all sides. That was a tough one to do that with, just like John Benet Ramsey was a tough one to do that with. But let me know what you guys think. I do want to talk about Scott Peterson's appeal, so I'll probably do that in a different video because Scott Peterson is trying to appeal his conviction now, and there's a lot of stuff that we need to talk about with that, which is why I accidentally said Scott Peterson or Lacey Peterson in that video I did about Suzanne Morphew. I know that the Petersons didn't happen in Colorado, it was California, but it was the same day that he announced he was going for his new appeal, so I wrote his name down on my notes, and then when I was using my notes to make the video, I said his name because I saw it there. So I was like, oh, Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson, just kind of reading off the notes. I know it didn't happen in Colorado. It was just trying to do too many things at once. Always bites you in the ass. Thank you so much for being here with me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you're not already. The links will be in the description box, as long as the link for June's Journey. Remember, if you're interested in trying June's Journey out, it is free to download. It's so much fun. There's no reason you shouldn't download it and at least give it a try. That's my opinion, at least. Right now, what else are we doing? I'm still locked at home in New York. Nobody's really going outside yet, and I need a distraction. I need something calming, and June's Journey is incredibly calming and distracting in the best way possible. Thank you guys so much for being here. Stay kind, stay beautiful, stay safe, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.
Straight down.